Ice doesn't roar. It steals. It takes the weight of tires and the trust of brakes, and in a single breath, the world is no longer yours to control. February 11th, 2021, Fort Worth, Texas. The I-35W pileup would later make national headlines. More than 130 vehicles colliding in the morning fog, steel folding over steel like an accordion of ruin. I was there, 25 years old, gripping the steering wheel of my Honda, whispering the same reminders I had lived with my entire life. Steady, careful, don't push too hard. With juvenile arthritis, my body had always been a negotiation. Every step was measured, every movement calculated. But ice doesn't negotiate. The semi ahead of me jackknifed, and then the world blurred. A horn screamed. My tires slid, useless. I pressed the brake, but the pedal felt like glass beneath my foot. Cars slammed together like falling dominoes. The impact from behind snapped my head forward. The second hit crumpled the driver's door, pinning me in place. For one long, merciless moment, silence. Then the hiss of airbags, the metallic taste of blood, the sting of antifreeze burning my throat. My legs shrieked with pain, but no sound left my lips. My phone buzzed on the floor near the pedals. Mom, Dad, Miranda. Their names flashing as if they could save me. I pressed call with trembling fingers. No answer. I knew where they were, front row in Dallas, watching Miranda's ballet rehearsal. My sister, the star. I was the afterthought. And my grandfather, Nick Hale, the only one who had ever truly shown up for me, wasn't there either. He was already lying in a hospital bed, too weak to move, his heart struggling even before my crash, though it would be weeks before it finally gave out. When the firefighter finally tore open the door, his voice cut through the haze. Miss! Can you hear me? I swallowed blood. Ava! Franklin! He repeated my name into the radio, and for the first time that day, I heard determination in someone's voice that I was worth saving. But here's the truth. Survival wasn't the hardest part. The real battle began after. The fight not against broken bones, but against the family who had already abandoned me long before the ice ever did. Before I tell you how I survived, and how betrayal turned into the fire that rebuilt me, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment with where you're watching from. Trust me, you don't want to miss what comes next. The hospital room was cold in a way that seeped into your bones, no matter how many blankets they piled over you. Machines beeped softly at my side, each one keeping time like a cruel metronome. I was 25, broken in more places than I could count, waiting for answers I already feared. The doctor spoke in a language that felt both too technical and too simple. Pelvic fracture, ligament damage, extended rehabilitation, 6 months minimum, maybe a year, permanent impairment possible. They stood at the end of the bed with clipped voices and neat charts, while I lay there wondering how a single morning drive had dismantled the fragile life I had pieced together. When they left, silence folded over me again. I reached for my phone, hands shaking from more than the 4 drip. Mom. No answer. Dad. No answer. Miranda. Straight to voicemail. I stared at the ceiling, white tiles dotted with pinholes, and told myself maybe they were driving, maybe they were busy. But I knew better. My parents were exactly where they always were, sitting in the front row of my younger sister's ballet rehearsal, watching her spin and leap under warm lights, pretending they had only one daughter worth clapping for. That was the rhythm of my life long before the crash, me alone, them somewhere else. I had been a sick child, the kind of child who made doctors frown and mothers sigh. Juvenile arthritis was the name they gave it, but to my parents it was just another problem. My joints swelled, my fever spiked, I limped when other children ran. Every birthday party, every school trip, every simple moment of childhood came with the question, will Ava be able to manage it? And more often than not, the answer was no. My mother, Maritza, wore disappointment like perfume. You're delicate, Ava, she would murmur, but the softness in her tone was a blade. You always need something. Medicine, rest, excuses. Do you know how hard it is on this family? My father, Christoph, didn't waste words. He worked the small grocery store, shoulders bent under the grind, and when he came home, his gaze slid past me as if I were another unpaid bill waiting on the counter. If he ever looked at me too long, It was with the faint irritation of a man asking himself why fate had saddled him with one broken child when he already had a perfect one. Because then there was Miranda. 3 years younger. Healthy, beautiful, graceful. She didn't walk, she glided. From the moment she could balance on her toes, my parents pinned their hopes on her. Ballet lessons at 5. Recitals at 6. Competitions at 10. By the time she hit her teens, our house was plastered with glossy photographs of her in tutus and tiaras, while my medical bills were stacked quietly in drawers. If I limped, Miranda leapt. If I cried from aching joints, Miranda twirled to applause. And my parents beamed only when they watched her. But I wasn't entirely alone. There was Nick Hale, my grandfather, my mother's father. To Maritza, he was a stubborn old man who clung to traditions and wasted his pension. To me, he was the only person who saw more than my illness. He was there in hospital corridors, sitting on stiff plastic chairs with a thermos of tea he'd brewed himself. He was there when fevers made me shake so hard I thought my bones would rattle apart, his large hand steady on my back. "Patience is power, Ava," he would say in his gravelly voice. "Fear is just energy. You can use it, or you can let it drown you. But you're stronger than you think." He showed me how to sand wood in his garage when my fingers ached, saying the rhythm would ease the pain. He let me paint ugly, lopsided birds on scrap lumber and told me they were masterpieces. He was the only one who ever clapped for me the way my parents clapped for Miranda. If I had been born into my family as a burden, he was the one who convinced me I wasn't worthless. The older I grew, the clearer the lines became. Miranda's dance shoes cost more than my medication, yet somehow the money was always found. I learned to take smaller portions at dinner when recital fees were due. I learned to stay quiet when my pain flared, because nothing ruined a ballet weekend faster than Ava needing the ER. Maritza made sure I remembered it. "You should be grateful," she said once, adjusting the straps of Miranda's costume before a competition. "We've sacrificed so much for you. If it weren't for your pills, your therapy, your doctor visits, do you know how much further Miranda could go?" I was 12. I remember clutching my knees, already stiff, and wondering why I felt guilty for being alive. Nick overheard. He waited until my mother left the room, then crouched down in front of me. "Don't listen to her," he whispered. "You're not a burden. You're my brave girl. And one day, you'll see that surviving isn't weakness. It's proof you're stronger than all of them." Those words stayed with me. Through high school, through endless injections, through nights I thought my bones might split. They became the only shield I had. And now, in the hospital, staring at a ceiling full of tiny holes, I finally understood what Nick had always meant. My body was broken again, in new and vicious ways, but the loneliness, that part wasn't new. I had grown up inside it. My calls went unanswered. My room stayed empty. My parents' applause was reserved for Miranda's pirouettes, not for my survival. I lay there, pain throbbing in every nerve, and thought, this is the life they gave me. Alone when it mattered. Forgotten when it hurt. What I didn't know yet was that the battle ahead would be worse than the crash, worse than the surgeries, worse than the silence of unanswered phones. Because bones can be set, and muscles can be trained. But betrayal? That has to be fought in an entirely different way. My parents showed up on the third day as if they'd taken a wrong turn into my room. My mother stood in the doorway clutching a paper cup of vending machine coffee. My father hovered behind her, the faint smell of our grocery store clinging to his coat. Their faces weren't relieved. They were startled, as if my surviving the I-35W pileup had been the one outcome they hadn't budgeted for. They stayed 19 minutes. My mother asked if the nurses were nice. My father asked if I had my insurance card. Then my mother's phone buzzed, a banner flashing from Miranda's coach. She nailed the combination. New York is watching. Call time moved up. Her eyes finally warmed. "We should get back," she said, smoothing her blouse. "It's an important day for your sister." She left a fruit cup by the sink, kissed the air 2 inches from my forehead, and they were gone. I learned to sit before I learned to stand. I learned the choreography of pain. Brace, breathe, shift. When the nurse lifted the sheet the first time and I saw the map of bruises, violets and sickly greens blooming over my hips, I thought of all the colors my parents had bought for Miranda's costumes and wondered if anyone had ever bought colors for mine. The call came a few weeks later. My grandfather, my one-man rescue team, was gone. Heart failure, they said. I pictured the hospital ceiling above him, the same sterile tiles above me, and hated that we'd spend our last weeks under the same indifferent white. I was discharged on a windless morning, a wheelchair and a folder of instructions, my new scripture. May Foster, my grandfather's attorney and the executor named in his will, met me at the curb in a gray suit that looked like it knew every rule in the book. "I'll drive," she said, and for once I didn't argue. Her office was small, sunlit, deliberate. A carafe of water. A box of tissues no one touched. My parents arrived exactly on time. My mother bright with a performer's smile, my father quiet with a bookkeeper's eyes. Miranda wasn't there. New York doesn't pause for family business. May opened a leather folder. "We are here to read your grandfather's will and confirm the status of his healthcare trust, which, as you know, has been paying for Ava's rehabilitation." My mother tilted her head. "Of course. We're very grateful for everything." May's mouth didn't move, but her gaze sharpened. "The trust continues. It can only be used for Ava's medical recovery and related living expenses. That cannot be altered." My father cleared his throat. "And the other part?" May turned a page. "The estate. Your grandfather's portfolio has been consolidated and valued at $280,000, May said. "Conservative positions, mostly broad market index funds, blue chip equities, and a ladder of investment-grade bonds and CDs, plus a savings account, the house sale proceeds, and personal effects." My heart stuttered. I could hear my grandfather's voice in the garage, the rasp of sandpaper and the soft cadence of his favorite line, "Patience is power, Ava." May slid a single-sheet letter across the table to me. My grandfather's handwriting, crooked, stubborn, holy him. I read, "For strong bones." That was it. 3 words and everything he meant by them. Calcium and rehab. Yes, but also walls that were mine, a door that locked from the inside, a life built on something sturdier than begging. My mother's smile widened, all dewy magnanimity. "How thoughtful," she breathed. "Of course, family will decide together how best to use these funds." May didn't blink. Per the will, the estate passes to Ava Franklin. Sole beneficiary. No co-signers. No executors from the family beyond my office. Silence is loud when something falls through it. My father's gaze darted to the page, then to me, calculating. My mother recovered first. She folded her hands and leaned forward, voice low, intimate, weaponized. "Ava, sweetheart, listen. Your sister is on the brink of something extraordinary. New York rent, coaching, costumes. This is no time to starve her momentum. We'll sell the store. Yes, but this." She tapped the folder. "This could launch her. And isn't that what your grandfather would have wanted? For the family to rise?" My father nodded. "We could put it into a family account. I'll manage it. Transparent ledger. Monthly stipend for you. The bulk for investments. Miranda's career is an investment. The store's roof. Our retirement, eventually. Everyone benefits." I looked down at my grandfather's 3 words again. "For strong bones." I thought of the nights he spent in plastic chairs, the thermos of tea, the way his large, gentle hand stopped my shaking without making me feel small. I thought of my parents' 19 minutes. May spoke before I could. "Your grandfather's letter is a wish, not a legal direction. But his will is explicit. There is no family account. There is Ava. She may gift or loan if she chooses. She may also decline." She turned to me. "You are not obligated to discuss any figure today." My mother's softness curdled. "We raised you," she said. Every syllable lacquered. "We paid for your medicine, your braces, your therapies. Do you know what those bills did to us? The store barely survived. We all sacrificed. Now it's your turn to give back." "She's not a ledger," May said quietly. "She's our daughter." My father snapped, then softened. "Ava, think practically. You don't know how to manage this. You're good-hearted. People take advantage. Give it to us to steward. We'll make sure you have what you need." Images flickered. My mother counting pills like coins. My father turning off the lamp when I entered the room. Miranda's perfect fifth position while I learned how to hide a limp. I set the paper down and folded my hands so they wouldn't shake. "I hear you," I said. My voice surprised me. Steady, like the floor you test before you put your full weight on it. "But I'm going to honor my grandfather's wishes. The trust continues for my rehab. The inheritance is mine. I'm keeping it. I met my mother's eyes. For strong bones. My mother blinked, as if the words had slapped her. This is selfish, she hissed. Miranda has worked her entire life. So have I said. Just not on a stage you wanted to watch. My father leaned back, disappointment settling on him like dust. You'll regret this, he said, already rehearsing the story he would tell himself later. Ungrateful daughter, squandered opportunity, family hero misunderstood. May close the folder. If there's nothing further, I'll arrange transfer of assets and continue approving rehab expenses. Any contact about the trust or pressure regarding distribution should be directed to my office. My mother stood, so quickly her chair scraped the floor. She smoothed her blouse again, the gesture as reflexive as a dancer checking lines in a mirror. We're due in Dallas, she said, and the way she said we told me everything I needed to know about where I ranked. At the door, she turned. When Miranda makes it, remember this moment. Remember what you refused. I didn't answer. I couldn't over the roar building inside me, the sound of a life shifting weight, of bones learning where to carry it. May's hand hovered near my shoulder but didn't touch, the way good help offers itself without claiming credit. After they left, the room exhaled. I read my grandfather's letter again, tracing the grooves his pen had pressed into the paper, proof he meant every inch of it. For strong bones. I didn't yet know how many fights those 3 words would have to survive. But I knew this much. The first battle had a winner, and for once it was me. Rehab taught me how to inhabit bone again. Mornings were for ice and measured movement, afternoons for stares that bit back. 4 strong bones, I whispered at the parallel bars, and each day the whisper sounded a little less like a wish and a little more like a plan. By the 3rd week out of the hospital, I added something else to the regimen. The evening support class the hospital ran for trauma patients. Not formal therapy, but a steady circle with a psychologist who kept the room from tipping. We met in a windowed classroom at the end of a quiet hall. The rules were simple. No fixing, no sermons, no gossip, and no naming people who weren't in the room. For a month straight, I didn't miss a Tuesday. That room became the one place my body wasn't the headline. We talked about sleep that wouldn't come and the ache that did. When my turn came, I offered small, honest things. I walked 6 steps without the bars today. Or I hate the sound of ice in a bag now. It means pain is coming. The circle didn't clap. It nodded. It was better than clapping. Sometimes Kit Clayton took the chair 2 seats to my left, brace peeking beneath his jacket, tape still flattening his shoulder. He didn't fill silence, just to prove he could. When he did speak, it was with a sideways humor that let the room breathe. After class, we had a ritual. A slow walk to the vending machines, a private argument over whether the hot chocolate still tasted like regret, and one thing we'd each try before next Tuesday. I liked him for that. Maybe for more than that. On the 4th Tuesday, I arrived early, the way you do when a place has started to feel like yours. People trickled in, slings and canes, a scarf bright enough to be defiant, a man carrying a notebook like a shield. I was about to ask Kit if the hot chocolate had improved when a familiar perfume reached me before the voice did. At the doorway, speaking to a staffer in the hall, a woman said warmly, "My daughter attends sessions here." I was hoping to learn how to support someone I love. My mother. The psychologist, Dr. Ellis, stepped forward. "This group is for patients," she said gently. "Caregivers meet on Thursdays in B112. Tonight is an open attendance." "I don't want to intrude," my mother answered, arranging sorrow like a brooch. "I'm only trying to understand. My family has been through so much." After a beat, Dr. Ellis offered a compromise I loved and hated at once. "You may sit and listen if you follow the rules. No names, no identifying details, and no putting anyone on the spot." My mother took a chair by the door and folded herself into quiet. We went around the circle, naming hurts and small mercies. The ex-runner said she'd knit 2 rows without crying. The woman with the scarf had slept 3 hours in a row. Kit said he'd stopped trying to rewind his life to the second before the crash. Heads nodded, shoulders loosened. Then the facilitator's eyes found my mother. "If you'd like to share, briefly you may." She didn't use my name. She didn't have to. She spoke of a daughter who always needed more, medicine, attention, money, and a family who sacrificed, sold, scraped by. She mourned a grandfather who had spoiled that daughter with an inheritance and said that now, after everything we did, the daughter had turned her back, refusing to help even a little, while a younger sister chased a once-in-a-lifetime dream. Her voice hit the soft syllables where pity grows. She never looked at me. She looked through me, toward the sympathy on the other side. The rules barred responses. The room obeyed. Dr. Ellis thanked her and steered us back to what each of us could control this week. We finished. We salvaged what we could of the hour. When it ended, chairs squeaked and people shuffled out. My mother waited by the bulletin board where I always paused to read the same flyers. She picked a spot that made me pass her. "Hello, Ava," she said, warmth spooled like wire. "You look better." "This is a patient group," I said. "I didn't say your name," she smiled. "I honor the rules." "You weaponized the room," I answered quietly. She leaned in, voice low, breath perfume sweet and knife cold. "If you don't want your little group to know what kind of daughter you really are, you'll stop this nonsense and share what your grandfather left. Think of it as penance for all the years we took care of you. Blackmail works best on people who have something to lose," I said. "I don't." "You have a lot to lose," she murmured. "Your reputation. Your new friend's impression of you. I can come every week and tell the truth." "You can tell your version," I said. "If you show up again, I'll ask Dr. Ellis to remove you. And I'll involve my lawyer." She scoffed lightly. "Lawyer?" "May Foster, my grandfather's attorney and the executor named in his will. She knows the rules here. She'll recognize harassment when she sees it." For a heartbeat, the performance slipped. Then the mask returned. "Think about your sister," she said. "Think about what you owe." I thought about the stairs, about ice packs, about a circle that had held me for a month without asking me to be useful. I thought about Kit's quiet and my grandfather's 3 words filling a page for strong bones. "I'm done owing," I said and stepped past her. Kit fell into stride beside me without asking if I wanted company. We walked the slow length of the hall, past humming lights, to the vending machines where the cocoa still tasted like regret. "You okay?" he asked. "No," I said, "but I will be." That night I sent 2 emails. One to Dr. Ellis. "Please document tonight's incident. If my mother returns, I'm requesting she be barred from the group." One to May. "We need a letter, no contact at the support class, no public or semi-public misrepresentation, all communication through counsel." She tried to leverage my attendance for money. "I won't let her use the only safe room I have." May replied before morning meds on it. "Proud of you for choosing the hard boundary. Keep going. Strong bones." I slept poorly. I moved well. The next Tuesday, the chair by the door was empty. Our circle held. When it was my turn, I didn't mention my mother. I said simply, "I added one more step on the stairs today." Heads nodded. It was better than clapping. Year 1 was stairs and paperwork. I measured progress in centimeters and signatures. 2 extra steps without the bars. 1 more boundary notarized by May Foster. My Tuesdays in the support circle held. My mother stopped showing up after May's letter, but the pressure didn't. There were church prayer requests about a wayward daughter and a struggling family. There was a neighborhood fundraiser that never named me, but somehow described me exactly. May sent a takedown before the first donation cleared. I moved into a small, bright apartment with grab bars and a chair in the shower, paid from the trust and the inheritance exactly as my grandfather intended. I taped his 3 words inside the kitchen cabinet for strong bones. When the flare-ups came, joints like lit coals from the strain of learning to walk differently, I learned heat, then ice, breath, then rest, asking, then receiving. Kit learned it with me. "I don't have advice," he'd say, settling beside me with a book and the patience of a lighthouse. "I have time." Year 2 was work. Small projects first. Menus, flyers, a clean landing page for a bakery that smelled like Saturdays. Then bigger ones. Accessibility audits for clinics, patient portals that read like humans wrote them. Money I earned with my still uneven hands felt different than any money I'd ever held. Kit's NDA'd license finally started sending checks he refused to dramatize. "It changes nothing important," he said, which is how I knew it changed something. The background hum of fear quieted. That was when both my parents began calling from new numbers. "You're hurting the family," my father said, voice thick with accountant certainty. Let us invest your funds. You'll get a stipend, and Miranda can finally focus. My mother switched tactics weekly. One day she was Frost. We should have let the doctors wean you off all that expensive therapy. The next day she was Honey. If you help your sister just this once, I'll never ask again. May routed everything to her office and reminded me, documentation is armor, silence a strategy. Year 3 was Miranda. She texted late at night, emojis dissolving into tears. Rent's due. Coach won't hold my spot. 1 month, please. I stared at the screen, so long my eyes watered. I remembered her sneaking hospital pudding cups into her bag when we were kids and not offering me one. I also remembered her once lying on the floor beside my bed because I couldn't sleep and saying, I'll count with you. People are not one thing. Maybe a bridge, I told Kit. Just enough to keep her afloat. Your choice, he said. Make sure it's your choice. We met for coffee, Miranda and I, at a place with chairs too spindly to trust. She cried quietly at first, a controlled, audition-ready weep. They said you wouldn't even notice the money, she whispered. They said you're comfortable now. I'm not a bank, I said gently, but I can help you find a cheaper sublet, or call your coach with you, or float a small loan with a contract made drafts so it doesn't turn into a family bonfire. Miranda stared at the table, then at me. You'll make me sign for help? I'll make me sign, I said, so I don't become someone I won't recognize. The bitterness rose like a heel snapping on stage. She laughed, soft, mean. Fine. Put it in your little strong bones fund, she said, and tilted her head. At least something of yours should finally carry some weight. I felt it, the give in my resolve, the wobble, then the catch. Not collapse. A set. I put my wallet back in my bag, slowly. Thank you for being honest, I said. Now I can be too. I'm not funding contempt. I stood, braced left. I cried in the car, then called May. Withdraw the offer. All future requests through counsel only. Then I called Kit and said nothing. He understood the language of nothing. Year 4 was governance. We made the no-contact formal with cease and desist terms and a narrow corridor for truly necessary logistics through May's office. When my parents tried to corner me at a performance lobby and publicly congratulate me on finally giving back, I said 6 memorized words. Please route all communication through my counsel and walked away. They looked small from the end of a sentence I owned. My body decided to be a body, sometimes brilliant, sometimes petty. I learned my limits the way you learn a coastline, by walking it in every season. I strength trained what would hold me and forgave what wouldn't. Stairs stopped feeling like a verdict. Tuesday nights kept me honest. The circle never clapped. They nodded. It was better than clapping. Kit built a desk beside mine and called it a studio. He didn't try to fix the parts of me that weren't broken. When my ankle flared the week a client wanted rush revisions, he asked what the work needed, not what he needed from me. When his own shoulder barked at him, I told him to send the delay email and reminded him that people who value you don't require pain as proof. We became 2 lighthouses in view of each other's beam. Not one ship. The proposal wasn't a spectacle. He took me back to the rehab stairwell on a Sunday when the building was quiet and the air smelled like lemon cleaner and beginnings. We climbed, 8 steps I'd once treated like a mountain. At the landing, he pulled a simple ring from his pocket, hand steady. I love the bones you built, he said. I love the policies you wrote. I want to be governed by them with you. I laughed and cried and did not wobble. Yes, I said, because nothing in me wanted to say anything else. We told May first. It felt appropriate. She'd filed half the paperwork that made this possible. She sent back a string of party popper in one line, for strong bones and the life they carry. We took a picture on the landing, brace visible, ring visible, both of us visible. I sent it to the Tuesday group with a single sentence. Added 1 more step today. Heads nodded, wherever they were. It was better than clapping. From my parents, there was no reply. No congratulations. No heart, not even a period. The next morning my inbox pinged, calendar invite, family meeting, financial responsibilities. Sent from my mother's address, CC to my father and counsel as if I were a defendant. No message in the body. No mention of the engagement. I forwarded it to May. Do you want me to decline, or hosted here with ground rules. She wrote back. Hosted, I replied. I want this on paper. They didn't say congratulations. My parents stood in the doorway of May's conference room with a manila folder and the careful outrage of people certain they finally had the moral high ground. We want back what we spent on you, my mother began, voice lacquered. 25 years of medicine, and braces and specialists. We kept you alive. My father slid the folder across the table. Inside, a hand-typed list titled Reimbursement for Ava's Care, numbers padded to the edge of fantasy, orthopedists' hospitalizations, pricey prescriptions I hadn't taken. At the bottom, a round, satisfying total that could have bought a small house. May didn't flinch. If you're asserting a claim, she said gently, we'll need documentation. Not estimates, proof of payment. My mother's mouth pinched. Are you calling us liars? I'm asking for receipts, May said. Like any ledger. Silence except for the tick of the wall clock. A heartbeat keeping time for itself. It took 2 weeks. I signed releases. May requested provider ledgers from the Children's Hospital and the Pediatric Rheumatology Clinic, pulled EOBs from the insurer's archive, and retrieved disbursement records from the healthcare trust my grandfather had funded, the one she administers. She cross-checked dates with my school records and pharmacy profile. Boring work. Exact work. The opposite of a sob story. When May called me back in, she had a neat stack of printouts and a quiet, almost tender smile. Here's the truth, she said. Your medical costs, hospital admissions, infusions, braces, PT, were paid 98% by insurance and the remainder by your grandfather's accounts and the trust. The payer of record on nearly every bill is your grandfather or the trust. What your parents covered directly were ordinary items no court would convert into a retroactive invoice. School supplies, a handful of field trip fees, some clothing, 3 copays paid in cash, and a set of discount sneakers your father bought when you outgrew yours mid-semester. She turned the final page. From birth to age 19, outside what your grandfather and insurance paid, their provable out-of-pocket spending on you totals $4,774. The number sat there, small and honest. I thought of the dramatic sum they demanded, the theater-ready total. I thought of how, for years, every kindness came with a tip jar and every meal with a bill. May slid a one-pager toward me. I itemized it, line by line. Not to humiliate them, just to give you the truth. You asked for the number. This is the number. What do you think I should do? I asked. That's your call, she said. My job is to protect your borders, not write your policy. For strong bones echoed like a sign above a door. Strong didn't have to mean cruel. Strong meant clear. Double it, I said, and make it clean. May nodded. We presented as a final settlement, $9,548, payable upon their signature of a no-contact and non-disparagement agreement. Acceptance of funds equals acceptance of terms. Do it, I said, so they don't get to pretend I never pay the check they've waved at my face my whole life. We met them at May's again, midday sun laying squares of light on the conference table. My mother wore church pearls. My father brought a calculator, as if the sum might try to run off the page. May spoke first, steady and kind. We audited provable expenses you paid out of pocket for Ava's care. The total is $4,774. Ava has elected to double that, $9,548, on the condition you sign this agreement. No further contact outside counsel, no public or private misrepresentation, and no future claims. If you decline, we proceed with the existing no contact via counsel only. 2 signature lines weighted like doors. This is insulting, my mother said, but her hand was already reaching for the pen. We gave up more than money. That may be true, May replied softly, but you brought an invoice. My father's jaw worked. We should have asked for interest. I slid the check across the table. Ink dry, numbers precise. I didn't apologize. I didn't explain. I didn't tell them about the nights my grandfather sat in a plastic chair so they could sleep, or the way he kept a ledger that counted tenderness, not dollars. My mother signed first, angry flourishes. My father signed next, block letters neat as pennants. May witnessed, countersigned, and tucked copies into envelopes with the calm of someone who'd watched storms pass and houses still stand. At the door, my mother hesitated. When your sister is famous, she said, you'll regret not being part of what we built. I'm busy building what holds me, I said. I hope she finds something that holds her, too. They left. The room felt larger without their story crowding the corners. Consider the ledger closed, May said. Noted, I answered. For strong bones, she smiled. Go live on them. We did. We booked 2 one-way tickets to Hawaiʻi and packed like people who understand the physics of weight. Kit tucked his laptop into a backpack and a paperback into the front pocket. I folded 3 dresses, 2 swimsuits, and the ring we'd chosen together. We left a neat stack of mail holds and a forwarding address with May. Send the marriage license copy when you sign it, she texted. I sent back a heart and a shell emoji because words sometimes get in the way of true things. The air that met us on Maui was warm in a way that felt like permission. The ocean was the color of a decision you can keep making. We found a small place with a lanai and a sliver of view where mornings looked like postcards and evenings like grace notes. On our first full day, under a plumeria tree with 2 witnesses the officiant brought, we promised simple things. Time, truth, repair. Kit's hands were steady when he slid the ring onto my finger. I love the bones you built, he said. I love the life we wrote on them, I answered. We signed the license at a wobbling table I steadied with a folded napkin. We laughed. We kissed. We watched the light leave the day. That night on the lanai, trade winds lifting the hem of my dress, I opened my journal and wrote 3 lines. For strong bones, for clean ledgers, for a future with no invoices,